Yeah, incredible. It's sort of hard to imagine that we're like 3.5 years into playing soccer as Nashville Soccer Club, and to be in our first final. And I guess somewhat ironic that the two teams in the final are the two that started on the same day 3.5 years ago, and I would say I've had different ways of getting here and doing things to get here, but here we are in a great matchup.
We are going to open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand if you have one.
Hey Ian, Stephen Boyer from the Sports Credential. I just want to touch on that a little bit more. What has this journey been like, not only just through the League's Cup, but through these last few years, and seeing how the team has really developed and how key players coming in, how Hani has just been unbelievable being the MVP, and then Jacob shortly after, and even this so far just Sam in a handful of games, how this team has developed to really be 90 minutes away from their first piece of hardware.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people it probably seems surprising that we got here or whatever. I think I heard Gary Smith talking yesterday or the day before, and he put it much better than I could, but essentially saying that people often have thought that we were overly defensive or very defensive minded, but really from way back at the start when we had those early meetings about roster development and style, it was always going to be a journey for us, and we knew the journey. We obviously didn't tell everyone else the journey, but the journey was often, as we talked about, it starting by being very difficult to beat in that first year or two. I think we lost 2 home games in those first 2 seasons or something, and then developed from there, and more offense and obviously the way salary caps and rosters and expansion work. You can't just do everything at once, and we were very measured with that, both in each transfer window, not blowing all our powder in the first window necessarily each time, and just gradually building, and really incredible work by Mike Jacobs and his team to really be thoughtful, and what I could say the most about that process is that they're always looking a long way ahead. We're not looking to the next transfer window, we're looking at the one after that and the one after that, and who'll still be here and who might not be here, and what's the best way to deal with that, and being really smart about trading other assets out that give you GAM and the ability to do things. So it's less of a surprise to all of us than it is perhaps to everyone else, but I think they did an incredible job and continue to do so.
Hi Ian, John, I'm with the League's Cup site. You alluded to kind of different ideas between how you've gone about building your team, how Miami has built their team. But as you guys approach this final, and starting from where you guys started from, how important has the culture been? What have you tried to set as the culture of this club, and how do you feel like it might reflect itself with a final that I know a lot of people are really excited to be at?
Yeah, it's a good question. We when we started everything from the development of the club and the brand, and started building our supporters group with fans, we use this phrase which is kind of uniquely Nashville. We weren't really, whether it's this stadium or this team or the culture, it was never about trying to be, let's be like so and so, let's have a name like so and so, let's do something like somebody else. But it was always about building what was right for Nashville, and anyone who'd spent a lot of time in this city knows that it's not really, people aren't really impressed necessarily by celebrity or bling, if you like. I think that's necessary in some cities in the world, but it's about being wholesome and good and being together and all those sort of adjectives, and we really built it on that basis, and down to small things like our players are hugely respectful of the fans and go to the crowd after every game. They have good relationships in the community, and it sounds like small things that sometimes people don't think are important for sports teams, and we just have a great connection with the city, with the community, try to do the right thing, and it rubs off, and it's right through the organisation. Our owner is one of the most humble guys you'll ever meet, and that reflects right down through the organisation, and I think when you get that and you get good connectivity, the relationship between myself and John and Mike Jacobs and Gary is first class, you know, and I'm a big believer that you know, that quartet or what have you is so important in a football club. I've worked in all sorts of clubs where it's different, and I think what we have here is really special.
Yeah, Ian, Ben Wright with MLSsoccer.com. You mentioned uniquely Nashville, and it's a phrase that you've used a lot since you got here. You've obviously been here from the start when COVID kind of wrecked the expansion season, and then the tornado came through. I'm just curious, with your connection to Nashville and the people here, what you're thinking of considering the potential to not just win Nashville SC's first trophy, but the first trophy for a professional team in Tennessee.
I think it'd be, you're right, you know, this city and this club's been through so many kind of crazy and unusual situations, as the rest of the world did with COVID. But in some ways, you know, I think that first period, you know, we play our first game on February 29th, 2020, and you know, and then which is incredible, and there's, you know, 59,000, 60,000 and change, and then we go on the road to Portland, and, you know, in between that, the tornado wrecks the city, and then the whole world closes. I think it galvanized us in so many ways. It you know, we built this big crescendo of work, everybody throughout the club and the city, and then it was, you know, somebody stuck a pin in it, you know, COVID particularly. But it just makes you pull together, and it made everybody realize that, look, you know, this is bigger than just soccer or football, and what we need to do is be there for each other, both the club internally and then externally in the city, and I think that helped us build the connection we have and the love we have with everybody, and the city has for us. I remember talking to my good friend and I guess colleague, Sean Henry from the Nashville Predators about the team, and he was like, I think it's incredible what you guys have achieved in such a short space of time. He said, but it's because you've approached it in the right way, and they like us, have an incredible connection, and that's this city, and so a lot of people saw a lot of negativity, of course, from COVID, and I think if there was any good came from it, for us it was that.
One final question.
Ramon Cisneros from the Spanish newspaper La Campana. Good to see you again, yeah. 4 years ago, everybody thought that Nashville was not a soccer town, that this was a crazy dream. And you guys envisioned that it was going to happen, and today, like Christina said, is a big day. Would you describe a little bit what the reaction of the team toward their fans has been, how important the way the team has been accepted in Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying that you know, there's a great phrase that I heard back in my time in the Premier League, which is football is nothing without fans, and you know, this stadium, this city, this group of fans that we have, our supporters and our fans. As you said, when we started out, I came here in 2018 and told this story before about the Uber driver who asked me, heard my accent, said, "What are you here for?" I said, "I'm coming to build the Major League Soccer team," and he couldn't stop laughing. He was like, you know, soccer's not a thing here. And how wrong could he have been? And I think that the fans are everything to this. I think the fans are that particularly that section behind the goal, but the whole stadium is like the energy plant of the games. The players feed off it, and that's the same the world over. You know, whether you're, you know, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man United, wherever, it's the power of the support that drives the players on. And as I mentioned before, our players feel this real connectivity and they respect it, and it's the reason they're out in the community working with fans and the community, and it's the reason they go to the fans after games, the reason they have these relationships throughout. And they get treated respectfully, which is important as well. You know, in some markets that's not the case. In Nashville, people are hugely respectful. They can go have dinner and be recognized, but you know, be treated respectfully, and I think it all works. And nobody thought this was a soccer town, but it absolutely is, and tomorrow we'll blow the roof off the place.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you everybody who will be joining.